Hey gang, using the promo code MTGMudsta, one word, all caps, will get you 10% off orders of $10 or more at Flipside Gaming, Original Magic Art, and orders of singles at Multizone. If they don't have what you're looking for, you could check out TCG Player and use my affiliate link to help support the channel. Looking for a way to bling out your deck and not spend a fortune? Alter Sleeves can help with that, and you can help with the channel at the same time by using my affiliate link. Or, if you're looking to join the Goblin Gang, you can always support me through Patreon. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game is a bit of an old one, filmed in 2008 at l'Abyss in Montreal. New to the channel is Billy playing Kaalia, keeping a Rakdos Carnarium, a Rakdos Guildgate, Dragonskull Summit, Sajiri Step, Aegis Angel, Quicksilver Amulet, and an Angel of Despair. You'll probably remember Tom playing his Iroas deck, keeping an Avacyn, 3 Plains, Mountain, Anger, and Wild Ricochet. Skylar is rocking his Ghave Enchantress deck, keeping Regna, Temple of Silence, Forest, Thief of Blood, Akroma's Memorial, Woodfall Primus, and a Spider Silk Armor. Last but not least, Romain is playing Rashmi, keeping a Simic Guildgate, Botanical Sanctum, Simic Sky Swallower, Pearl Lake Ancient, Fierce Empath, and Thassa. Romain wins the die roll and starts us off. Romain draws and plays a tapped Simic Guildgate. Skylar plays his Temple of Silence, which comes in tapped and scries 1. He keeps it on top. Billy plays a tapped Rakdos Guildgate, passing to Tom. Tom plays a Mountain and passes. For his second turn, Romain plays a Botanical Sanctum, passing. Skylar plays a Swamp and passes. Billy plays a tapped Dragonskull Summit, and that's it for him. Tom plays a Plains and casts a land tax. Romain plays an Island and taps out completely for Thassa. Skylar plays a Forest and casts Spider Silk Armor. For Billy's turn, he plays a tapped Sajiri Refuge and has to pass. On Tom's upkeep, he goes to find some basics for hand from his land tax trigger, and he grabs a Plains and a Mountain. He then plays a Plains and passes to Romain. On his upkeep, Romain gets to scry 1 because of Thassa, and keeps it on top, drawing it, and then playing a Forest. He taps some mana to cast Spring, and goes to find a basic for the field tapped, and passes. Skylar draws, and unfortunately has to pass. Billy draws, and plays a Sacred Foundry, taking 2 so it comes in untapped. He then taps out for Kaalia, passing to Tom. Tom does get another land tax trigger, and he goes to his library, finding another 2 basics, and putting them to hand. He plays a Mountain, and then taps 4 mana for a glary copy of Anger. Going to combat, he hits Skylar for 2, and passes. Romain scries 1 with Thassa again, and keeps it on top, and draws it. He plays a land for turn, and then taps 4 mana for Rashmi, before passing to Skylar. Skylar draws and just can't find a land. He passes, discarding Akroma's Memorial. Billy's turn has him playing a tapped Secluded Step, and he goes to combat, because Kaalia loves combat, but he doesn't know who to swing at. He rolls a 6-sided die, and Skylar is the victim. With Kaalia swinging, Billy gets to put out an Angel, Demon, or Dragon from hand, and we see the Aegis Angel hitting the field. As she comes in, he gets to make another permanent indestructible for as long as the Angel's out, and he makes the obvious choice of Kaalia. Skylar then takes the hit from the 2, and in his second main phase, Billy plays out a Helm of the Host. Tom gets his land tax trigger, finding another pair of basics. He plays a Plains and casts Sphere of Safety to hopefully keep Billy at bay. Romain scries with Thassa, bottoming the card after giving it a think for a moment. He plays a Yavimaya Coast, and then plays out Fierce Empath. This triggers Rashmi as he casts it, and he gets to reveal Swiftfoot Boots off the top, and is able to cast it. The Empath then enters, and he goes to find a creature that costs 6 or more. Romain reveals a Regal Behemoth to the field, and puts it to hand. He then equips his commander, Rashmi, with the boots, and passes. Skylar draws, and moves to discard immediately. Billy draws and gears up Kaalia with the Helm of the Host. He moves to combat, making a non-legendary token copy of his commander, and then swings everything at Romain. He gets not one, but 2 triggers from Kaalia's, and puts out a Rune-Scarred Demon, and then a Harvester of Souls. With the Rune-Scarred Demon hitting the field, this lets Billy tutor for a card. Romain then moves to blocks, putting the poor Empath in front of the Harvester, but still takes 15 in the air, 2 of which is Commander. Billy then finishes tutoring for his card, and then draws from the Empath dying because the Harvester is out. He plays a Rakdos Carnarium, bouncing the Serigi Refuge back to hand. Tom goes into his library once more, finding more basics, and Skylar's a bit jealous. Tom then draws, and plays out Knight of the White Orchid before anything else. This lets him go and find a tapped Sacred Foundry, putting it to the field. Tom then plays a Plains, and casts Heliod, God of the Sun. Moving to combat, Tom swings Anger, who now also has Vigilance, at Billy, who takes the 2. Romain taps and scries, keeping it on top and drawing it, and then plays a Nykthos for turn. He taps a lot of mana for the Regal Behemoth, and Rashmi reveals a Seedborn Muse off the top. He gets to cast it, and the Behemoth then comes in, making him the Monarch. Romain then taps 2 lands for 4 mana, casting Harmonize and drawing 3. We then move to combat, and he hits Billy for 2 with Rashmi. He passes, and at the end of turn, draws from being the Monarch, and then promptly untaps with Skylar. Skylar draws and uses Assassin's Trophy on the Helm of the Host. This blows up the troublesome artifact, but lets Billy find a basic Plains. Skylar then passes while Billy shuffles, and at the end of turn, Romain flashes out Pearl Lake Ancient and gets a Rashmi trigger. He reveals Dissipate, which he surprisingly doesn't want to cast right now, and he then untaps with Billy. Billy draws for turn, and replays his Sejiri Refuge. With it coming in, he gives the real copy of Kaalia protection from blue, and then puts to stack Aurelia the War Leader. Romain isn't having any of this, tapping some mana for a Plasm Capture to counter the spell. He gets a Rashmi trigger from this, revealing a Forest off the top and drawing it. This helps Billy decide who to attack, and he taps his team sideways at Romain. He gets 2 Kaalia triggers, and puts out an Archfiend of Depravity, and then an Angel of Despair. With the Angel entering, he blows up Tom's Sphere of Safety. And Romain then returns some lands to hand to bounce the Ancient back to hand and recast it. Unfortunately for Romain, at this point he realizes he already has gotten a trigger from Rashmi and sadly won't get another this turn. He puts the Regal Behemoth in front of the Harvester, which will kill it, but then sadly dies to the Flyers. Billy then becomes a Monarch, and draws at the end of turn, passing to Tom. Tom draws for turn, and plays a Maze of Ith. He goes to combat, swinging his sadly small creatures at a now defenseless Billy, dealing 4. Tom becomes the Monarch, and then casts a Star of Extinction. He deals 20 damage to all creatures, and blows up Billy's Sacred Foundry. The original Kaalia survives because of Aegis Angel, and Tom then passes to Skylar. Skylar draws, and discards, and passes. Billy plays an Isolated Chapel as his land drop, and casts his own Glary Iroas. He swings Kaalia at Tom, putting out a Baneslayer Angel, and Tom takes 7 while Billy gains 5. Billy becomes a Monarch again, and draws at the end of turn. Tom plays a Sunhome as his land drop, and puts out a pretty good blocker with Avacyn, Angel of Hope. Anger is in his yard, so she does have haste, and Tommy hits Billy for 8 with the Angel. Tom then becomes a Monarch again, and draws at the end of turn. Skylar plays a Godless Shrine for turn, taking 2, and he casts Erebos. This actually might be helpful at this point, preventing Billy from gaining any more life, and he passes. Billy untaps for turn, drawing a card. He pays 5 mana to cast Reforge the Soul, and the table discard their hand and draw a minty fresh 7. Skylar is very pleased that he's drawn into some lands finally, and Billy goes through his yard quickly. He uses Animate Dead to bring back the Runescarred Demon from the yard to the field, and this lets him tutor for another card from his library. It's Anguished Unmaking, which he casts and uses it to exile Avacyn, losing 3 life from casting the spell. Moving to combat, he swings Kaalia and the Baneslayer at Tom. Kaalia triggers, letting him put out Gisela. Tom then uses the Maze of Ith to untap the Baneslayer, but still takes 14, 4 of which is Commander. Billy once more gets the Monarchy back, and draws at the end of turn. Tom draws and plays a Slayer's Stronghold. He then casts his copy of Iroas, and then drops a Grand Abolisher, passing to Skylar. Skylar plays a Serra's Sanctum, and is able to tap it for 2 to help pay for Sorin, Grim Nemesis. He downticks the Walker, dealing 2 to Kaalia, which should have been 4 because of Gisela being out. They do catch this later though. He gains 2 life, and Billy puts his commander to the command zone. Billy untaps, and he plays a Reflecting Pool, and counts up some lands. He casts Aggravated Assault, and swings his team at Tom. Tom can't really block effectively because of Iroas, so he uses the Maze to untap the other god, and at this point Skylar realizes he should have downticked Sorin by 4 because of Gisela, fixing his mistake. Regardless of the Maze, Tom still sadly dies. With Tom being taken out, Billy then moves to his second main phase, activating the Aggravated Assault to give himself another combat step. At this point he has enough to take out Skylar, swinging his creatures sideways to finish off the game. Game review time. So I think Romain was in a pretty good position to win. Being able to have that Seedborn Muse and the Regal Behemoth doubling his mana certainly opened up a lot of avenues for him to win. It also painted a giant target on his back, and he didn't seem to have enough interactions or ways to stop stuff. And fortunately for Billy, he didn't have a Cyclonic Rift in hand to bounce all the attacking creatures back to their owner's hands. Billy's Kaalia deck this game was classic, and it really showcased what the deck wants to do, which is turn Kaalia sideways and cheat out huge dragons, demons, and angels for maximum value. I think Tom built his Iroas deck to be more pillow forty and then allow him to swing unimpeded, with the Iroas giving things menace and making it difficult to block. We saw a little bit of it this game, but unfortunately for Tom, Billy had his foot on the gas from the get-go and just did not let up. Unfortunately for Skylar, there always seems to be at least one deck on camera that gets a bit shy, and in this case it was his Ghave deck, and he just didn't want to draw lands. Having to rely on someone else's Reforge of the Soul to get you lands into hand is not a good place to be that late in the game, and unfortunately even when he was doing stuff, like with Erebos to deny the life gain, he was several turns behind. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.